And I think a large part of this, and you mentioned his name there, is Mike Sullivan. You know, a lot of people were saying early in this offseason, oh, well, Sullivan's got to be on the hot seat. Sullivan's got to be on the hot seat. That has quieted down a lot as time has gone on. And now you look at last week, the NHL actually named Mike Sullivan the 5th best head coach going into this season. How confident are you in Sully heading into his 10th season behind the bench to be able to figure all of these chess pieces out to get the most out of a roster that, as you mentioned, as of right now, when you're looking at it on paper, you wouldn't pencil into a playoff spot?
Man, it's a loaded question because very well, I am a huge Sullivan supporter in general. Like from the beginning, I have been the one like banging for him to be given more like nationwide recognition. Mm-hmm. And now he's getting it when I'm like, oh, okay, I'm kind of like, I still think he's a great coach. I think if for some reason they parted ways, he would be hired instantly and he would do a great job wherever he lands. You just wonder if like the message goes stale at some point. Like that's a long time to be the head coach. And especially with like a group like Sid, Gino, Letang, like at a certain point, do they just kind of not tune out, but you're not getting the same things from him to ramp up your game. I do still think he's a good coach, though. I think it's going to be interesting to see what bringing in his buddy does. Like, again, the team wasn't awful in most areas of the game. It was really special teams that we need to improve. So, like, if we can even get a marginal improvement, like be a middle of the road power play, that makes a huge difference. If we get a healthy Tristan Jarry, that makes a big difference, right? But some big ifs. Really big ifs.
And not only that, but do you see that, bringing in Quinn as an assistant, he's going to, he's supposed to help the power play. Could his former knowledge of Erik Karlsson help that out? Not just adding to the power play, but also just to Karlsson's overall game in what will be his, second season in Pittsburgh now.
I've got to think so. And I think anyone that doesn't believe that Karlsson was asked about this hire before it happened is crazy. Like he absolutely signed off on it, or at least didn't deter it. Granted, I think Sully was going to make that final decision at the end of the day, but if you've got your top offensive power on the blue line saying, I do not want to play for this coach, they're not bringing him in. It's not going to happen. So there's got to be something to that, Horwat. I think it's a good call, but again, what's the rest of the personnel look like? Because it really was Karlsson running those power plays. I don't know if Pittsburgh is an organization that's willing to let that happen with Malkin and Crosby in the group, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it opens more up and you find more opportunities for those guys. But it is something where if Quinn's coming in and he's going to try and replicate what they did in San Jose, Karlsson's going to be running everything, which maybe that ends up being a good thing.
And I think the one thing I look at with the whole Quinn discussion is this is essentially the discussion we had when Reardon was hired for the second time in Pittsburgh was, well, Reardon really helped out Chris Letang. Chris Letang and Reardon, two peas in a pod, they work well together. So it's going to help Letang. The question then became that nobody asked, well, what does it mean for the rest of the defense?
For everyone else, yeah.
So for Quinn, what does it mean for Chris Letang? What does it mean for specifically a guy like a Ryan Graves or even a Matt Grzelcyk, players that the Penguins are hoping kind of hit that revitalization this year, where you look at the left side and if they're going to find any success, they need one or both of those guys to have not just better seasons, but significantly better seasons than what they've shown over the last, well, for Graves last year, but for Grzelcyk the last 2 years in Boston.
And how crazy is it, guys? Because again, like I'm kind of negative going into this season, especially compared to others. If you just erase this past season from your memory, like it never happened, and you look at the roster, aside from being a little long in the tooth, like you're looking at this and saying it's a pretty good roster, right? Like the names make sense. It's not poorly constructed. It just has not worked. And whether that's a coaching issue, whether that's just not finding the right balance of who should be on which line or which pairing, I don't know. But there's definitely a world where they come in and they are a playoff team. It's just based on what I saw last year, I'm really, really not about that. Who are we thinking is going to be the third pairing guy next to Grzelcyk?
See, the problem I have is I don't know if Grzelcyk starts on the third pairing.
Why not?
I feel like Ryan Graves, the way that he performed last year, I feel like there's a chance that they say, all right, start the year on that third pairing and put him with somebody a little bit more reliable that fits his style more, like a Jackson Ivany, which I think is not the leader in the clubhouse, but a guy like Sebastian Aho, the right one. I think having him start with somebody there is what's best for Graves, or at least what I think the Penguins will think that. And I think they'll expect Grzelcyk away from Montgomery will be able to play alongside Letang, which scares the daylights out of me. But I think that's something that they're going to look at as a potential option to try to get the best out of both of those two.
Does the number 2.75 mean anything to you?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I look at that and I look at the number that Ryan Graves has as well, I think the problem being the Penguins can't afford Ryan Graves to be just as bad as he was before.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I'm just saying to start the year, there are not many front offices willing to bench the guys making money. They're just not. Like, unless he flat out gets no questions asked, beat out by someone else, Grzelcyk will be in this lineup as well. Graves. And hand up, when the Penguins signed Graves, I was excited.
Same.
I really liked what I saw from him in Colorado. I thought he was fine in New Jersey. And I'm like, oh man, this is like a really sneaky good move by Kyle Dubas. I was not expecting this. Wow, was that wrong? And granted, that's one season. Like, I'm not writing him off entirely, but oh man, does he have some work to do to get back in my good graces? That was bad.
On the bright side, though, he can't get much worse, right?
True. Hey, it can only get better. Same with the power play, like 30. You're not going to go down to 32.
You would hope. You would certainly hope not. But Horwat, you were saying something? Sorry to cut you off.
You're good. Just Ryan Graves, 1 year in, 5 to go.
Oh.
And when it comes to Grzelcyk's 2.75, I think the added benefit, like, the organization's going to want to play the guys making money. It's only a year.
Yeah.
If need be, I mean, you just kind of suck that one up and figure it out. I mean, there's supposed to be a decent amount of movement going on, on the waiver wire, on the trade market before the season even starts. I know they just got him, not to like assume all that, right. But there could be all kind of wild movement that we just didn't expect. And if a guy like Matt Grzelcyk or Ryan Graves even just get beat straight up and by an unexpected name.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
I was going to say, looking at the left side, I don't even know who could be a candidate for that.
No, it's tough. But there could be all kind of wild maneuvers. We'll see how it goes. But
yeah,
I mean, you're right. This lineup is better, if not just a bit more bloated.
Yeah, and with Grzelcyk too, like you said it, Horwat, the recency, like it's not like he's been on the team for 4 years. Like he's a recent add. The money talks, and I like him as a third pairing guy. Like if he's elevated in the lineup, not as thrilled, but like him on your third pairing is totally fine with me. I don't think like you could do a lot worse than a Matt Grzelcyk as your 5 or 6.